Has it ever felt like you're doing everything right, eating healthy, working out, but your energy still crashes? Or your mood swings hit out of nowhere? I know I have. What I've learned is that a lot of these issues are tied to changes in my hormones. That's where Happy Mammoth comes in. They offer a free 2-minute quiz that can help you uncover the root cause of your hormonal symptoms. It's super easy. Just answer a few questions. You'll get a personalized recommendation to help support your hormones and start feeling better. From the hormone quiz, I learned that my estrogen rises and falls unevenly. So the solution is hormone harmony, which could help with bloating, anxiety, fatigue, overwhelm, and more. Ready to start feeling like yourself again? Head over to happymammoth.com and take their free 2-minute hormone quiz today to find the ultimate answer to your stubborn hormonal issues. And for a limited time, you can also get 15% off your entire first order with our code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable. Oh my God.
You made it through that sentence.
Okay, for anyone that thinks I sound different, I do, because I've totally lost my voice. This is a huge improvement from yesterday. And I was like, I think I could do it. So sorry.
I'm laughing so hard because we both got on just a little bit before this. And she's like, do I sound okay? And I'm like, I mean, knowing what we went through this weekend, yes, you sound okay. But if people didn't have the background.
We decided because this is, so we're recording this right after the bachelorette party. Very in line with our topic today around marriage. It all goes together. And I was like, look, this is authentic. This is the voice.
So
it came from the bachelorette. I might as well just share what I'm experiencing. Yesterday, I couldn't talk at all. So today is a huge improvement.
So you had a good time.
I had a fantastic time. I know. I was saying to you, I'm like, how do we all lose our voice? Because you were saying that you were a little... You've recovered a little, but earlier you weren't so good.
I sound a lot better today. I couldn't talk the day I came back, Sunday. I couldn't talk at all. It was like, felt very strained. And mind you, I didn't drink anything. I didn't have any alcohol, and I still sound like this. And you were trying to guess what it is that made us lose our voices. I think it's just when you get a bunch of girls together, we just talk. And did you notice the more we talk, the louder it gets? So I'm basically screaming by the end of the night.
I feel like anytime I stopped talking and just listened, it was just laughter and talking. But I was like, okay, this is the sign of a good bachelorette party.
Yes.
Everyone is having a great time. But yeah, I think that, and then, I drink, so I won't make that. That will definitely be part of what did it for me. But I think part of it too was we did a wine limo, and we all on the way back, we were singing every early 90s hip hop song. And I think that did it for me.
The best part was, because I was kind of closer to the driver, I saw him put in his earplugs.
I assumed that. I was like, I bet you anything he's not listening to any of this. And this is his day-to-day. Every bus he does.
We're probably the more tame ones, but we were singing, screaming, rapping for the whole day. And this guy's probably like, okay, just another one of those party buses.
Yep, just put my headphones in and listen to anything but this.
But are you recovered otherwise?
I'm pretty much recovered. I was afraid I was getting sick because of my voice, but I think it made huge improvements since yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I have faith that by tomorrow I will be even better. We'll see what it looks like, but it's it's been good. But yeah, no, I think it was such a fun weekend. I was exhausted when I got home. So I didn't get home till 8:00 that Sunday. So it was another full day, but I just I told my fiance all about it, showed him all the photos. And, after that, I was like, okay, I need to go to sleep.
So highlights of the weekend for you.
Ooh, I don't know. There's so many. I think, okay, the first one, you maybe our listeners will understand this. I've told the trophy story on this podcast before, but basically they like created this like Academy Awards ceremony where they gave me awards like for just like, I don't know, dumb shit I've done or inside jokes. I don't know how to explain it. How would you explain it?
So Julie was the only nominee for every award category, and she won every award category. And these awards range from a poofer coat that I didn't know about. It's inside joke with you and your college friends that this coat that just wouldn't go away, which was like, I didn't know about the story, all the way to most likely to stay in a pool for 10 plus hours. As you all know, Julie loves water, hot tubs, pools. And it was so funny because the day before this, you were in that pool.
Yes, I was in there for 10 plus hours.
For probably the whole day. Yeah. And I remember you trying to get out at one point. You're like, I'm starting to prune a little bit.
There was like most likely to emotionally spiral if they don't get their morning coffee.
So many of us have witnessed that. So Julie has this amazing friend named Noelle. We have to give her a shout out because she thought of everything for this weekend in terms of food and beverages. And when we got there on Thursday, this is before anybody else, Noelle's first task was make coffee. Everybody, whoever can, make coffee so that there's fresh coffee ready tomorrow morning for Julie to make iced coffee. That was like task number one. And I'm like, girl, I know. I hear you. I'm with you. Like 3 of us were like, let's grind the coffee beans. Like, we got to get this done. This is a priority.
I cannot function without coffee. It's very sad, but I do get very upset if I don't have my coffee. So that was a funny one. What was another one? Or like most likely to get asked out while doing karaoke. I forget the extent of it. And then there was best fall, because I have definitely, especially when I was drinking back in college days, often fell down in very inopportune times. Well, the one that I think will shout out, I won't go through all of them, but there was biggest 90210 fan. And this was the surprise that UA alluded to a couple weeks ago. My friends got Brian Austin Green to do a cameo because that's what I used to have the biggest crush on, and it was pretty entertaining.
Mr. Davis Silver graced us with his presence. I mean, I had a crush on him. I think everybody had.
Everyone did. Yeah,
he had that boyish charm. I mean, he ended up marrying Megan Fox. The man is hot. I would say that he's okay. I mean, like he's okay now, but it was nice to have a cameo from him. No Davis Silver anymore.
UA was also I loved what this Bachelorette is like. Everyone had their job. My maid of honor, my best friend from college, Kate, she's very good manager. And she was really good at delegating roles based on people's strengths.
Yes.
And UA helped with the video and got all like videos from different people, and also got Lou, one of our past. We've had two guests made their appearance on here. We had Lou, who's my cleaner / gay porn star. Shout out to Lou. We had him do a cameo, and then also Evan Marquette, who we've had on this podcast. And I've also shared how way back in the day, actually, Kate, her old roommate, like had his like how to do online dating binder. It was a legit binder. So I've like had his help prior to this. So it's been like 360 when he comes on this podcast.
The funny background story about Lou is Julie is very adamant about not having a stripper at her bachelorette, understandably. And when I reached out to Lou to do a favor for Julie, the first thing he said was like, uh-oh, I don't know. And I just asked him for a video. And later he was like, oh, thank God, because I thought you were going to ask me to strip. I texted Kate right away because I was like, of all the strippers in the world, I actually think Lou would have been the only acceptable stripper at your bachelorette.
Yes,
or maybe not.
Also, it's like kind of awkward to have someone you know. Don't you think? Like, I feel like, I mean, I obviously put this request in general, but like, I feel like having someone you know is like a different level.
I was like, well, he can come in a maid outfit and help us clean up too. Double whammy.
It was funny though, because that was the one I'm assuming you're like, I need to tell you something after the Bachelorette.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, something funny happened.
It's too funny. I was like, Kate, of all the strippers in the world, he would have been a pretty good one, actually.
So whose idea was it? So my fiance came on and they called him in and he did best fiance and he was dressed in like a tux top. He did not wear the pants.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he didn't. He was only on video and it was really sweet.
It was such a nice touch because he had an envelope. And when he revealed the award winner, he actually opened the envelope. That was his doing. Like nobody knew he was doing that.
It.
Such a nice touch. Such a nice touch. And also, we didn't know the exact timing of when we'd be phoning him in. So he was just sitting there waiting in his tux for I don't know how long, maybe like an hour. So good on him. I'm glad he wasn't wearing the pants.
I was like, thank you for being a good sport. He's like, I would do anything for you. Oh. Your friends clearly love you to put this much effort in. And I was happy to do it.
And he chose the more difficult route because we were just going to get a video from him, play the video. And I think when he talked to Kate, he volunteered. He's like, why don't I just zoom in?
Do it live. Love it.
Yeah, do it live.
Everyone was like, oh, everyone was very excited.
Yeah, it was really sweet. It was a really nice ending to that Academy Awards.
Okay, but it was on like this very tiny screen because it was like that Facebook portal. And at first I was like, who is coming on? And I'm like, oh.
Your eyesight.
I need glasses. Or I have glasses, but I need them.
With like a previous, so we also got videos from girls who couldn't make it to the Bachelorette trip. And the first one that came on, Julie's like, who's that?
Okay, in my defense, other people thought that too. There was something about that video that was off for some reason or out of nowhere. But I do need glasses. That's not an excuse.
Or just wear your glasses when you know you need them.
Just wear them. I have them. I do have them. So yeah, I think by the end I got like, how many trophies? Probably like 10 different ones.
A million.
Different awards.
I think you have enough for a lifetime.
I'll put them all in the background.
They should be on your dress. Like make a necklace out of it.
I think though the biggest surprise too with that though is they had me like turn away, and then at the end our friend Nikki, who makes these incredible cakes, she made one for our book launch party. She comes in with this, I don't know, like the most intricate cake I think I've ever seen her make. It was like Academy Awards theme. It had like the Academy at the top. She printed on like edible paper, like different photos, like as like film around it. It was just so amazing.
There was a red carpet.
Yeah. It was crazy detailed. So I know she spent a lot of time on that, but that was so cool to see.
Well, Nikki came in with all the materials that day on Thursday. Right? Was it? Yeah, it was like the first day.
Early, yeah.
And then Julie thought she was doing work, like she was working the whole time. But she'd been working on the cake the whole time.
Yeah.
But you were like, God, her work is so demanding.
I know, because they're like, yeah, she's just working. And I like didn't really think about it. I don't know. It's funny because she asked me, like, she's who I went to San Diego for her 40th. She asked me, like, what my favorite type of cake was, like, subtly. Like, it was in conversation to cake, wedding cake, so I didn't think that much of it. But then I was like, maybe she's making a cake. But then I kind of forgot by the time this rolled around. So.
It was a delicious
It was a surprise. Cake. Yes. So, yeah, that was definitely a highlight. I really liked it. Everyone wore, like, gala outfits. It was very, like, creative. That was really fun. Obviously, like, doing, like, the wine bus and going to the different, vineyards. Like, that's obviously what you do in Calistoga, which is where we went, in Napa Valley. I will give a shout out to my friend Melissa because I heard that she had to call like 50 wineries to find somewhere that would like fit like 18 people. So we ended up with really solid spots though. We did a cave tour. It was really cool.
Yeah. And we went to Alexander Valley and then Trioni. So we did a cave tour at Alexander Valley, and then at Trioni, they gave us picnic tables. And then we had a little snack and chatted in the beautiful vineyard.
Yeah, it was great. Great day. So that was really fun. Singing on the way back, we went for a really nice dinner. That was really fun. It was nice that like it was, preset. Obviously, I love preset meals, but it was just easy for that group size. But I think more than anything, it was just hanging out. And like, I loved like seeing different groups of friends just interact with each other. And I'd say overall, like everyone got along pretty well.
Yeah,
and there wasn't
definitely.
any issues, and just everyone was just down to have fun.
Yeah. 18 girls. Yeah, that is no easy task. But I also think with age too, you just like, who has time for drama? Everyone just is there to have a good time.
And it's a bachelorette, so it's like everyone's just there to party.
Yeah,
Everyone's there to just support their friend, you know? So it's like, even if someone annoys you, you're just like, oh, I'm just not going to like really feed into this.
And we definitely had the two groups of girls who were the ones who have kids who are like, I don't get out much, so I'm going to party my ass off. And the other group of girls who do have kids and they're like, I just want to sleep and rest. So good.
The host was really sick too. I think that like honestly made it just like having such a nice place. I mean, huge pool. They had pickleball courts, tennis courts. I didn't make my way there, but you spent a lot of time there.
I sure did.
Nice. And I think the massage, getting that was really nice. They brought like someone to do massages in for whoever wanted it.
Yes, it's lovely. What was something surprising?
Maybe how well everyone got along.
Yeah. And Davis Silver?
I would say that was surprising. I mean, I think also there was this blow up raft that they got. I'll give a shout out to my friend Tara because she was the mastermind on that. Yeah. And David Silver also, right? She was the mastermind for there too. She's very creative with this stuff. Yes. So she got this, it was this floaty on Etsy where they took the face of my fiance and like imposed it on there, and it looked so creepy because she had it laying. When I walked up to my bed, it was just in the bed like a blow up doll, and then I like lifted it up and it had like the floaty. So that was, I think the reaction to that was surprising and priceless. Like there were no words for that to come in. So that was very entertaining.
Everyone was very scared by that, even though we knew that was happening. Yeah. It was still scary to see it in person. And we took him everywhere with us the first night. He had dinner with us. He chilled with us. And the second day we put him in the pool and then he burst.
Well, I tried to get on him and it was
like
it was also
kid
like
size.
The tube was very small compared to like the other tubes we had. I was like, I don't know what, clearly they're trying to cut costs. They put it, they were in the reviews, they're like, you might need a few extra patches. So he popped.
He popped, poor guy.
But we patched him up. I brought him home. My fiance's like, we'll bring him in the Russian River.
Did you blow him up to show your fiance?
I didn't re-blow him up. That was too much effort. I did show the photos though.
Oh, so good. I thought you were gonna surprise him with it.
I know, but that's when it was like half blown up. When it was like totally done, I was like, nah, I can't.
Yeah.
I still showed it to him in person. He still got the effect.
You can still do it at your wedding night.
I can still do it. Yeah, I know. This was so great. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, like to have, it just means so much like for everyone to come and like spend the time and plan it. Like how much planning went into this? Like it clearly was like a village of people doing it. And I think that just is so special.
And ushering you into this new chapter that we're about to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, we are.
But doesn't it get you excited now? Like
it definitely does.
It's cool, right?
Does. Although I'm not sure if this episode gets you excited because a lot of it's about the challenges of marriage, but how to overcome them. And then also, I think what is super interesting, let me give some background on this episode. We have Meygan and Casey, who are a couple. They've been together when they got married they met in college and they got married like short after, like very quickly after. And then in their third year of marriage, like it kind of all fell apart. They'd grown apart and just were not in a good place. We'll get into their whole story, but they were able to rebuild their marriage completely. And now they have this company, Marriage 365. They've written books. They basically devote their life to helping other couples to get through the challenges in marriage. And then also when we got in touch with them and chatted, they were like, we've learned so much that we can share of like how to think about this when you pick a partner to begin with. Because I think when we're dating, we tend to date with like the date lens of like, did I have fun? Did we exchange cool stories? Did we have the chemistry? And we're not thinking about like, what is life like with this person year after year? And like, are they someone that's going to get through difficult times? So they really shed some insight into things they wish they knew when they were dating and picking a partner to begin with. So if you are single and nowhere near marriage, this episode is absolutely for you as well. And if you're in a relationship and marriage is something you want in the future, then clearly this is a must listen And if you're married, maybe you can really relate to a lot of this and actually apply some of it now. I know I have applied some of the tools they give us and just things to be like preventative as well.
And I think so for so many of us who are undecided about marriage because we keep hearing about the nightmare stories or the challenges, this is actually a very nice, transparent episode for
Yeah.
us to see, yes, there are challenges, but if you have the right tools, marriage could be amazing and it could be such a great partnership if you work on it and commit to it being that. So I think it actually takes away some of the fear that people
Yeah.
have around marriage.
Well, people don't ever want to talk about the hard times. So I
No.
love, like, again, like how much they put it out there. And like, you can tell just they're in a really great place. And like,
Yeah.
their kids are like, we aspire to have relationships like you and things that like were not their story, I don't know, a decade ago or whenever they started to have the challenges. And that just shows you that like, if two people are willing to work on something, you can have that change. But it does take two people that are very committed. And it's not always easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I love to, we actually were on, they do a podcast that's part of their app. So they had us on there to talk about dating for any parents that want to help their children date or any single parents that are back into the dating scene. And we actually talked about it because Casey, I think when he was like kind of like building up his business, one of his like go-to jobs was being an officiant. So as Yue embarks on officiant duties for our wedding, you were like, let me pick your brain a little. Let me hear what it means to be an officiant. It just shows me how much he loves love overall.
Yeah. He's very insightful. And I love that what was the story with being officiant? Because you asked some questions to the couple, especially when you're the stranger to the couple, is a little different than our situation. And he would ask these questions and these couples hadn't even thought of some of the questions he was asking. So if you are curious, like what are the discussions that you really should be having before you get married, listen to this episode.
Awesome. Well, we cannot wait to go into it even more with Casey and Meygan. But before we do, you all know the drill at Dateable Podcast. That's where you find us. Oh my God, my voice. Howtobedateable.com. That's where you get the book, the audio book. We'll read some more reviews next week because this went a little long with, the whole Bachelorette recap. But we are just loving the reviews that come in. They make us so happy because we don't know who's reading. It's like the podcast. We don't know who's listening. So when you send us a review, it makes our hearts warm. So please keep doing that. Reach out. Feel free to do anything. Just, we're just here. We're here to hear how this helps you. That makes us so, so happy, and everything we do completely worth it. So yeah, again, if you haven't picked it up yet, go do so. Okay, well, before we get into it, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
I am so relieved to say that the days where shapewear feel like torture devices are over. Seriously, who invented those things? They were so uncomfortable. But now, have you discovered Skims? Because I'm a Skims believer, and it's just too good to keep all to myself. The Fits Everybody collection from Skims is like nothing I've ever tried before. And here's a funny story. When I first got the cheeky bikini underwear, I thought they had sent me kid sizes because of how small they looked. I was like, this is not going to fit me. But then I was shocked that they stretch to mold to my body, and they're so comfortable. I feel like I'm wearing nothing at all. And best of all, I found the perfect color to match my skin. So these undies don't show through any white pants. Skims truly live up to the hype. Shop Skims Fits Everybody collection and more at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know that we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select Dateable in the drop-down menu that follows.
As we're headed into summer, I feel that familiar urge to refresh my closet, but I'm not wasting money on pieces I'll only wear once or for just one season. With Quince, everything is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup, like 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30, luxe swimwear, and so much more. I have my eye on their Italian leather platform sandals in cashew and and may just be getting these in time for my bachelorette party. Their clothes are timeless, lightweight, and far more elevated than anything else at this price. Give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable.
Okay, let's hear it from Casey and Meygan.
Welcome to Dateable, Casey and Meygan. We are very much looking forward to hearing your story because as we understand, you have quite the story of how your marriage was headed for divorce due to a lot of these preconceived notions we have about modern dating and relationships. And you were able to turn your marriage around. So I'm ready. I'm ready for this story. But welcome to Dateable.
We're honored to be with you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to share our very messy story.
I think this is going to help, like whether you're married, even with the podcast Dateable, we do have married listeners tuning in. So whether you're married, headed for marriage, I'm recently engaged, so this is very helpful for me to hear. And then, even if you're single as fuck, I think this is still really good to get ahead of things and learn from other people. So we're excited.
We're excited to be here.
Let's go to the good stuff, which is the bad stuff. Let's go back to the dark days of your marriage on the rocks. What was happening when your trajectory was on the decline?
So I guess the best way to start off would be at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think there was a moment, year 3 into marriage, there was so much hatred and resentment towards each other. There was almost a confusion and what did I get myself into? I was in love with this person. Dating felt so easy. I've never been an angry person. And in the last 3 years, every conversation turned into a yelling, screaming match where we blamed each other, criticized each other. We put each other down. We tried to intimidate each other by raising our voice and be as loud as possible. And it was like a winner take all because Meygan and I are also super competitive. So when it was about time to go to war, we were going to win no matter what and use any weapon in our arsenal. And there was this moment where I started to mourn the idea that I was going to repeat the exact same habits I saw in my mom. My mom's been married 6 times. I am doomed to repeat exactly everything that I saw in my childhood, which was super traumatic and ugly, and I'd never wanted anybody else to go through that.
Yeah, we were asking ourselves the question that no one wants to ever say and ask themselves, which is, did we make the biggest mistake of our lives?
Damn.
And when you're faced with that, and divorce is an option, divorce was a serious option, you're only 3 years into it. It's like, well, we fell in love and it took 2 years to get married and, date and all that. And now, how do we destroy something so quickly? And I remember talking to my best friend and just saying it's all Casey's fault. At that time, I thought it was all his fault and blaming him. And I'm researching divorce lawyers. And she said, this is a really big decision. And I think you should go talk to somebody. And so I'm so glad I went to a therapist. I did go by myself because this guy right here, I begged him to go. He wouldn't go to therapy, which side note, for any listeners, most men will never go to therapy. And I'm saying most, meaning it is the majority.
Yeah.
If you look at statistics, it's typically female.
Interesting.
It's only about 20% of men will ever go to therapy.
Individual therapy or any sort of therapy?
Any sort of therapy, especially marriage therapy. Yeah, I think we're doing a great job in culture of really working and trying hard to make it more normal, where there's less shame. So hopefully we'll see a change in that. But from up until this point, that's the pretty standard statistic that's been around for the last 30 years.
That's interesting. That's so different than what we see, from the people that we interact with. It's definitely, that seems very, very low. So I'm glad that feels like maybe it's moving in a better direction.
Well, couples therapy, immediately that you have 3 people in the room, there's triangulation. So as soon as your spouse starts saying, this is what he does, and the therapist validates, whoa.
Yeah.
It's 2 against 1 now.
Yeah, it will always feel 2 against 1. I think a lot of times, too, there's a bad stigma where men feel like I'm going to be sitting on this couch being blamed for all these problems in my marriage, which there's a bit of truth to that. If you think about where my mindset was at that time, I did think that it was all him or mostly him, right? And so all that to say, I sat with this therapist and I complained for 30 minutes and, about how horrible he was. And she said, Meygan, she said 2 profound things that completely changed my life and then luckily changed the trajectory of our marriage. But she said, if you want to make a better marriage, it starts by making a better you. And you can sit here all you want and blame him and he is accountable for his actions. But I can guarantee you haven't been showing up the healthiest version of yourself. And then she asked the second question, and that is, have you done everything and anything to save your marriage so you don't live with regret? And I knew my answer was no. And most people's answers are no. And so for 13 months, I worked with this woman and I did a 180. I started to forgive him. I started to offer apologies. I worked on myself. I started practicing self-care. I started kind of sifting through my childhood and realizing how bad it was. And I had some unprocessed hurt from there. And I was like, no matter what happens in my marriage, at the end of the day, in our relationships, who are we responsible for? Who do we have control over? Ourselves.
Yeah.
That's it. And how we show up, our communication, our boundaries, our response, our intention, our communication, all of that. And so
the story goes that Meygan started working on herself. And there was a pivotal moment where I was upset with her. I'm walking into the room. I'm fuming. My face is all red. I'm stuck. You're going to hear from me, kind of a thing. Like, just I'm going to attack you. And she saw me and she'd worked on herself enough where there was this sense of confidence to know, like, that's your pain right now that's coming out, not my pain. I don't have to engage in it. So she sits there and she's like, I can tell you're very upset right now. And I really want to hear what you have to say. Why don't you go outside, take a walk, calm down, and then come back inside and then let's have a healthy conversation about it. And I was like, my jaw's on the floor moment of like, who is this? And it was such a powerful moment that, in that time, I realized like, okay, maybe I'm the unhealthy person in this relationship. And then I think my competitive gear kicked in and I was like, oh, I'm going to outdo you. I'm going to be more confident than you. It was like, I wanted to become to her level. So she actually set the standard.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh,
You'll rise up. Yeah.
I want to rise to that.
Yeah, where in the past I would have engaged with anger, pushback. And that's what I learned was it's so empowering to know that you have full control actually over what you'll allow and not allow in your relationships.
So there's so much that we want to unpack, obviously. But I think the biggest thing, at least where my mind is going, and I think a lot of single people or people in relationships that aren't married yet, is like, how did it even get this way?
Yes.
I think it's my biggest fear. I'll be transparent. And I've seen this happen in other friends' marriages and stuff too, that like one day there's just this switch. And where does that come from? And like when you were dating, like how did that happen?
I think when we go back to dating, all right, so a couple things as you were talking, Julie, I was like, dating was so much fun. And so that we showed up for all the fun stuff. It was walks along the beach. It was going to the street fair.
Everything was new, right? Everything's new. You don't know each other.
How long did you two date also before you got married?
We dated for 2 years.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I think the expectation was we were having so much fun. Why don't I pop a ring on it and let's just do this forever? Because this is great.
And it feels really good.
Yeah.
I will say that I know now, looking back, one of the biggest things that we made a mistake on was not going into marriage prepared for what marriage requires.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I believe that most everybody gets married for love. And what I've learned is that is never and will never be enough to sustain a marriage.
Yeah.
Any relationship. There has to be tools. There has to be a plan. There has to be conversations. And so we went into marriage. We didn't have communication skills. So then, of course, as we're talking and there was conflict, well, if you don't have conflict resolution skills,
right,
we didn't know what to do. So we just fought.
You knew how to have fun. That's the easy part.
Yes.
And that's what gets you in, is you know how to have fun with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So it was all like the top level stuff. It was all the icing.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's do this icing stuff forever. But dating and marriage are two different games. That's kind of what we're realizing. And oftentimes, because we're marriage coaches, we're coaching couples that are in crisis. When we go back to where did things go wrong, we can actually go all the way back to their dating years.
Yeah. And then they look back and they go, I wish we did this. I wish I would have been aware of that, right? This is why we love what you ladies are doing. This is such important work. And for all of you listeners, you're so lucky to have this podcast because this is exactly what well, we're so old where there weren't podcasts when we were dating. So there wasn't
we're
even
not that old.
there wasn't even iPhones or smartphones yet. There wasn't even digital photography when we got married.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, come on. I'm just saying. No social media yet, right?
Yeah.
So
the simple times.
the simple times. Yeah. And so we did, and we knew what we did, and that's all we knew, right? But now, like you ladies, and there's so much information and great books out there that there's more of awareness. So we really went in blindly to marriage. And that's one of my, I don't say regrets because now I'm changing it, like where I'm helping people, right?
Yeah.
But we've talked about that as a couple, where the lack of knowledge and tools of thinking that love is enough is so blinding that switch will feel really big.
That is kind of what we've been able to discover on our podcast too, because our focus was on dating for so long. And we realized that the game of dating, like you were saying, Casey, doesn't apply to marriage. So why don't we focus on relationship-minded dating, which is a totally different way to date. But to get to the point where you're headed towards divorce, where it's such a viable option for you. And I actually have a few friends going through this right now, and they're feeling like, I thought we did everything we could to get this relationship back to where it was. What do you think is the issue with the thought of, I wish this relationship could get back to where it was?
I want to go to tools. So when I think about building a house, a legacy, a home to house all of our dreams, our hopes, our kids, and the dreams that we have for them. When I look at like the biggest thing that hurt us going into marriage was I had no tools. I just thought, well, love is all you need. Love should be enough. And love is the foundation of every relationship. But it's not. Trust is. Trust teaches us who is safe enough in our lives to love.
Yeah.
And trust is very tactical. Love is kind of ethereal. Love is, unicorns and rainbows. But trust is accountability, reliability, it's safety.
Consistency.
Consistency. I mean, like if you want to think of it, there's nothing romantic about trust.
Right.
It is a very tactical word in relationships. And so we are asking people to build something and giving them no tools.
Yeah.
And one of the things we have seen over the last decade and a half that we've been working with couples is couples honestly don't need more therapy. They need better tools because with tools, then they can, work it into their relationship. That's kind of like the whole idea of having good habits, of affirming each other, of checking in, of finding alignment. That the tools that we've kind of created are really meant to create that foundation of trust.
But to go back to your question of, we want to go back to that. Like we had something so good and we're like longing for that. I see that. I think that it's good to go back and reminisce about what were the good things when we were dating. For example, we were very playful, very fun, things like that. We were very quick to forgive. We were very quick to apologize when we were dating. We didn't hold grudges, right? So go back and reminisce and say, what were the good that we want to take? But I am so glad that I am not the same person who I was when we were dating.
Yeah.
It's through the hardships and the challenges that have made me such a better person. And it's not a braggy thing. It's to say I was very immature. There was a lot of me that was very insecure. And same with Casey.
Yeah. Oh,
we both. And to see who we are now, I like who we are now better. And I believe that we should all be people where we are evolving and changing and growing and learning from our mistakes. And so I see that desire to say, let's go back to what we had, but only part of it, right?
Right.
Like only the good, like focus on the good, make those lists. What was it that worked?
Yeah.
I like that.
So I think, Casey, I know what you were saying about the trust part. It brought something to me because I know when I was dating the last time around, before I met my fiance, I really changed what I was looking for. And it was consistency, reliability, the unsexy stuff. And I think a lot of times in the past for me too, I was not looking for that. I was not at the forefront. And that doesn't mean the only qualities you're looking for is that, but I do believe that it's the foundation. And if that's not there, then it's hard to build. You're also saying that like you now can see like with your clients, like in retrospect, there were some red flags or things that were apparent at the beginning. Like, do you think that you can tell early on, like if you'll have challenges down the line, or is this something that is just kind of inevitable?
Studies and research has shown that yes, conflict is inevitable. So it's going to happen because of this reason. You are two different people, different personalities.
Oh, and we are two very different people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We are
Well,
very.
thank goodness, right? Why would you want to marry yourself?
I define a type B and she defines the type A. Like,
Oh,
in
yeah.
dictionary.
Like he's a spender, I'm a saver. You're so like spontaneous and I'm so structured and a planner, right? I'm an internal processor where I make like pros and cons lists. I think about it, I journal.
Oh.
He is a verbal processor, right? He's late to everything. I'm on time to everything. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. And so here we are. We actually really genuinely like each other and love each other, married 21 years, and we're more different than alike. So conflict is going to happen because you've got two people with different upbringings, personalities, preferences, beliefs, just anything that we just named, you know, how you view money. And so that's going to happen, but it's having the tools and the right mindset and that foundation and safety of trust that when conflict arises, you're actually going to know what to do with it.
Yes.
Because now we still have conflict. We're different people, but our conflict used to last 2-3 weeks. Now it's like 2-3 minutes. Well, I can do that. I mean, that's just going to happen. So yeah, studies show 69% of conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen.
Were you just making up that number because you like it?
I know it is a great number for marriage and relationships, 69, but it's not my research. It's the Gottman Institute research. But yes.
What are the red flags, though, in early dating that can determine the outcome of that relationship?
A big one is someone who's not willing to talk about the uncomfortable conversations. Because if they're not willing when they're dating, they're not going to be willing to do it when you're married. And comfortable means something different for everybody. So it could be about money. It could be about family. It could be about a specific memory they have. But if someone shuts down and says often, I don't want to talk about that, that's a really bad sign. Because we know communication is so important in romantic relationships.
All right, and I want to talk about sex.
There's a red flag with sex? Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things we've seen with couples that come to us that have not established a firm foundation of trust, going back to that, Julie, is they introduce sex too early in the relationship.
Yeah.
We have seen this time and time again. It's so much so that it is a pattern. Because what we've discovered through just looking at relationships, that as long as a relationship is non-sexual, that distance right there, that is the time where you are actually in a hardcore evaluation phase. Because as soon as a couple introduces sex is a bonding experience. It releases all sorts of hormones that creates connections. And we have not established, is this person safe enough for us?
So if the sex is good, it'll skew someone's judgment to say, is this the right partner for me?
Which sex with a new person is novelty. So of course it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. So then a question we would tell everybody to ask themselves in a relationship is, if we removed all of the sex and physical intimacy from the relationship, what else do I have?
Is it that people like build too much? Like they rely too much on sex?
It's more so that it skews the judgment
It's like
of
beer goggles of relationships.
Yeah, especially for women. I'm going to be gender specific here. Women tend to ignore or minimize the red flags that they see in a guy because the sex is good.
I could see that.
It's bad. It's really bad. And so typically if it's like 3 months or less, that tends to be the like, they have problems once they get married.
So what we've heard though with those couples is that they stop having the hard conversations. So they stop having hard conversations that just keep it really on the top layer. They haven't really evaluated if this is the right person for me. Then they do this for months, even years. Maybe they throw a kid in there at some point and they're like, well, let's start a family. And then we see them 6 years later when everything's falling apart. He's not working on himself. I'm trying to help the relationship out. We have a kid together. So now we feel like we have to be together. But I'm with someone who is a stick in the mud. And now what do I do? And I guess the second part would be, we talk about sexual compatibility. I see a lot of people focusing on some level of performance in the bedroom, but sexual compatibility is about the mindset that we show up to the bedroom. And sex is this beautiful thing where we get to bring pleasure to someone else. So when I think of someone who is sexually compatible, I think of a healthy mindset about sex as a gift to each other versus what can I get out of the bedroom?
It's a very like selfish mindset of like, well, they better know how to please me versus saying, why don't we just connect and teach each other and guide each other on how we both like to be pleased?
And that was an issue in our own relationship. So Takes one to know one.
Yeah.
So I guess speaking of your relationship, we started this off of, at the low point. But before we got on this recording, you were telling us how your daughter looks up to you both as like the epitome of marriage, just how much you love each other. So clearly there's been a 360. How did you get out of that? How did you get there?
Yeah. If it took us 2 years to fall in love and get married, it took us about 3 years to destroy our marriage. We like to tell people this was not an overnight thing. It took about 4 to 5 years to repair it. And really, it was incorporating these tools, being consistent, offering a lot of apologies, but mainly this. If you want to make a better marriage, make a better you. Really focusing on ourselves more than each other, because two healthy people create a healthy relationship. And once we stopped blaming and pointing fingers and waiting around for the other person to change, which that just builds resentment, and then said, well, what can I control? What can I work on? That's when things really changed. And so we started dating again. We started incorporating the good things about our relationship when we were dating, right? And really just being quick to own our stuff and be accountable. And then in that process, we couldn't afford therapy anymore. So then what do you do if someone's like, you need to go to therapy, and you're like, well, I can't afford it, or my spouse won't go, or I don't have a good therapist in my area? I mean, there's legitimate reasons why, or people have had really bad experiences with therapy and they don't want to go. So that's kind of how we actually ended up starting to do Marriage 365. Was we started creating resources that young, stupid, naive, hurting Casey and Meygan needed.
Yeah.
And our friends saw the turnaround, because all our friends were like, oh, they're doomed for divorce. I mean, they all they're shocked.
We had the ghoul pool.
Oh, yeah. It was like, if anyone's going to get divorced, it's going to be Casey and Meygan, because between both sets of our parents, there's 12 marriages. So like my dad's been married a few times too. So like we just came from divorce and affairs. And then we live in Orange County, which has the highest divorce rate in the nation. It's 72%.
Does it really?
It does. Yes.
Damn. That's why all of my parents' neighbors are like single parents. All of them.
Blended families in Orange County, lots of second, third, fourth marriages in Orange County. Yes.
Interesting.
And so all that to say, marriage should never be something that someone can't fix and get help for because they can't go to therapy or can't afford therapy.
Yeah.
We wanted to create online resources and be innovators in the relationship and marriage space. And that's what we've done for the last 12 years.
So I guess what are like some examples of those tools? Is there something that you feel like was groundbreaking for the two of you that really changed it?
Yes. And it's one of my favorite tools. And it's one of the tools that we constantly hear back from people that it's the game changer. It's called the weekly marriage business meeting.
We are advocates for scheduling sex. And we always tell people, if you have spontaneous sex, there's no need to schedule it. But for the 90% of married couples who are not satisfied with either the quality or quantity,
Or raising kids.
you want to maybe consider scheduling sex as an option.
Yeah.
And again, if someone's having organic sex and they're happy with it, then there's no need to schedule it. But for those who really are struggling, which is unfortunately the majority of couples, there is one or both partners know they should either be having it more, they feel guilty, then it's something to consider. And you can't knock it till you try, is what I always say.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
When was the last time you actually checked the ingredients in your dishwasher pods? Spoiler alert, they're full of chemicals and microplastics that can stay on your dishes even after they've been washed. And studies show that this residue ends up inside of you, causing inflammation and gut damage. But Blue Land's dishwasher detergent tablets are 100% plastic-free and made with certified clean ingredients that are safe for the whole family. In addition to the dishwasher tablets, I've also been enjoying the hand soap tablets. They're so easy to use. Just fill your reusable bottle with water, drop in the tablets, and wait for it to dissolve. And it comes with a foaming pump and a fantastic clean scent. Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. Now, Blue Land has a special offer for our listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/dateable. You won't want to miss this. blueland.com/dateable for 15% off. That's blueland.com/dateable to get 15% off.
I think one thing that could be a middle ground too, even from my experience, I'm not married, but I feel like as time went on, we weren't going on as many like midweek dates. We were just like watching TV and kind of getting sluggish. So like every week we have Wednesday night that is like a date night at home. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going out, but like we're playing a game or doing something that's more engaging. So if you think back to like early dating, usually when you went on a date, it would end in sex. So like if you don't feel like, oh, I need to schedule it like on the calendar, maybe there's other more creative ways that you can like bake it into your flow, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or even like you put it in your calendar to initiate sex if that's something that you want to do or you want to work on.
So the weekly marriage business meeting is one of those tools where if Meygan and I had that, I mean, there was a time where if you don't do it, you're just being responsive and reactive to the week as it comes about.
Yeah.
And that can really put everybody on the back feet, put everybody in kind of a defensive / like tense posture. Whereas this is a habit really born from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. The first one is be proactive. Well, this is your first step in being proactive for the week to set the right expectation, right? Because a lot of conflict comes from misalignment and missed expectations. And this solves both those things at the same time.
Logistically, what do you actually put in your calendars? Sex?
Okay, so we write nap time, which NAP stands for naughty and playful.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Because we have kids, right?
Yeah.
So if they see our phone, I don't want them being like, wow, sex time. And I remember when this is funny. So our daughter, when she was 7 and she was reading, she's like, why are you napping at 8:00 at night? I'm like,
yeah, because she does naps.
yeah, because she read nap time. So come up with a code word between you and your spouse, you know. Okay, so a really fun and simple tool, and this is a great thing to incorporate when you're dating, is something called love lists.
Okay.
And this is one of those things that a lot of the hurt came from, that I felt like I was loving Casey and he didn't feel it. And he felt like he was loving me and I didn't feel it. And this is a common one, even with dating couples, right?
Yeah.
And so we say, teach your partner how to love you.
I really like that.
I mean, I think what I hear at the root of this too is making each other a priority still. And I think that's something that can happen in longer term relationships and marriage. I'm not there yet, but hypothetically, it's like, you're like, oh, well, of course I have this person. I'm just going to like prioritize other parts of life. Or, you know, you have kids and other stress that comes in. And what it sounds like from your tools, it's a way to reprioritize each other. How do you see couples maybe falling into this trap of not prioritizing and then getting out of it?
I kind of want to go back to the weekly marriage business meeting because you're setting up the priorities for the week and being proactive. So again, this tool catches a lot of the activity within a marriage: sex, meals, money, self-care, like priorities.
It ensures that you're going to make time. I think what happens is busyness is one of the number one killers of marriage and relationships. We're too busy. And you're right. When we're dating, we're very intentional. We make time for it. And so if you don't put it in your calendar, it's probably not going to happen. And I saw this quote years ago and it really convicted me. Your calendar is a reflection of the things that matter to you.
A lot of napping.
A lot of napping.
Prioritizing naps.
Yeah, it is though. And so we always say, if you have an hour to scroll on TikTok or Instagram, you've got time for your spouse. If you binge sports or, you know, you play video games or whatever, you have time for each other, but it is prioritizing that in your calendar so it happens.
2 really healthy mindsets that we see in couples that navigate dating well. One is a healthy sense of curiosity. I think that comes very natural when we're dating because we sit across from someone who is really interesting and we're just like, who is this person? Like, I just want to know them. That generates energy within ourselves. And we ask these really good, deep penetrating questions where we're like plumbing the depths of someone's hopes and dreams and directions and your vision for your life. And then, of course, that wanes as we get to know each other and we get comfortable with each other. And that's where I think we see marriages get off track and deprioritize each other because they're no longer curious about each other. And underneath curiosity, what you're saying to someone is, I desire you. Curiosity communicates desire. If you think about the greatest connection we have with each other is to know and to be known. And that is that impulse is I want to know who you are.
I want to know your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, your goals, your fears, your concerns, your struggles, and love you and accept you and support you through that. And so we should never stop getting curious with each other, but we should also never stop getting curious with ourselves.
Ooh,
wow, why did I show up that way? Wow, when my partner did this or said this, I didn't really like my response to that. That was a little sharp, or that kind of hit. Where did that come from? Or why did I shut down in that moment? Or why did I lash out? Like, never stop getting curious about you, whether you're dating or whether you're married. If you have that, you're already a one-up on most people.
I'll say the opposite of curiosity is you're communicating I'm bored with you.
Like apathy.
Yeah, that's the nonverbal.
Yeah, I'm just kind of checked out.
And I want to just say, if anybody's kind of like, ooh, that kind of hurt, I don't think anybody does that intentionally. And especially in long-term relationships, no one's doing that intentionally, but we do need to be aware of when we're not pursuing each other, there is something we're communicating in that. And the second part of that, which I'll go back to tools, is intentionality.
Yep.
I don't think anybody creating something as great and as a magnificent, like think about the generational like impact that a healthy relationship creates for your kids, your grandkids, for people around you. You cannot just leave it to chance or rely on hope as a strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to have tools to help create that legacy impact that you want. And it starts when you're dating.
Yeah.
Because imagine like if you're on a date with a guy and he's like, okay, this was so fun. Like, let's talk. And there's no like intentionality of like, well, when are we going to get together? Are you going to text me? Should I text you? And he's like, yeah, we'll like figure it out. First off, that's a turn off.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, wow, I don't know. Like he's giving mixed signals. And then let's say he's like, I don't know, you kind of pick and we'll just kind of figure it out. No, like he's like, hey, let's go to this restaurant or let's go mini golfing or whatever. You're both intentional. And that intentionality is what's making the relationship work. So those are the two mindsets and those are the two habits that we would say if you can embody that. And we see this again in couples where they've been married 30 years, 40 years. Our marriage mentors, they are curious people still. Even though they're in their 70s, they are still getting curious with one another and themselves. And then they are very intentional in their relationship.
Well, and that's the impulse behind our Couples Connecting Questions book, is this idea of creating a tool for couples to get curious with each other, but also be intentional about spending time with one another and creating conversations that really help us relearn each other.
Yeah.
I want to hang out here for just a second, if you can just entertain me around this idea of curiosity. What happens? I can hear one of my friends already asking this. I see all the tools I need to build curiosity and still carry forth this curiosity for my partner, but I've built so much resentment in this relationship already. Part of what some of my friends are going through is like, okay, I'm working through some of my issues in therapy. I don't know if my partner's working on his. I don't know if this is an equal
partnership
journey right now. And yes, I want to feel curious. I want to know what your love list is. I want to use all the tools, but the resentment is already so strong. It's hard for them to knock down those walls. What advice or tools would you give to people who already have built that resentment, and what can prevent them from building more resentment?
Well, that was me.
Yeah.
Right. I was working on my marriage by myself. He was not a willing participant. You guys, I had walls of resentment, layers, miles of resentment towards my husband, and he was not apologetic and he was not sorry. The first step to that is seeing your partner through the eyes of compassion. Hurt people hurt people. I was hurting my husband because I was hurting, but I fixed that. If you continue to have resentment, you will continue to hurt him. Now, my husband was hurting me because he was hurt. He was hurting. It's not a justification. It doesn't excuse the hurt, but it is the explanation. And so again, who are you responsible for? And so at some point, everyone should have a timeline once they're married. If you're working on your marriage by yourself, I gave myself 2 years. 2 years, I was going to do that all by myself without his participation. I was all in. And I have like a 7-step thing that I walk women through when I coach of what you need to do. And because you need a plan and you need a guide when you're working on your marriage by yourself, you cannot wing that. I was willing to do it for 2 years because what you want to look for is you want to make sure that at some point your spouse does have to participate.
Right.
Right. Now, this is the cool thing when you're dating, though. That would be a red flag, right? Because if you're all in and you're working on yourself and then you've got a bum partner, yeah, the good news is you get to leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
When you're married with kids and a mortgage, it's not that simple, right? That's why it's really cool when you realize this and listening when you're dating, because it's not too late to say, this isn't the right person for me. They're not making effort.
So Meygan, I want to ask you one follow-up. So 2 years, you're holding all this in yourself. I guess maybe it's a question for Casey too, but like, what was that turnaround point? And then like, how did you also deal with that? Because I feel like I can't even fathom it. I can't fathom sitting in that for 2 years.
Well, it ended up not being 2 years. It ended up being 13 months, thankfully.
Okay.
But I had given myself, they say, like in my 7 steps, I say, give yourself an internal timeline. I walk that process through of how long. Some people can tolerate that for decades, by the way. That's not me.
Damn.
I'm too strong of a woman. I'm like, that's not me. But there's a lot of women who can handle that. So it was very hard. I want to say that. It's not easy. But once you start doing the different tools and you start focusing on yourself and you start seeing your partner through the eyes of compassion, your heart softens. You have more awareness. You're more whole. You're not responsive. You're living in forgiveness. I remember going up to Casey and I randomly apologized for being controlling in that season. I had never apologized in our marriage until that point. And I said, for years you've been telling me that I'm controlling. And you know what? You're right. And his jaw
I was like, what?
Dropped. And I said, and I am so sorry that I have been so controlling and manipulative towards you. And you don't deserve that. And that softened his heart. That softens my heart. Owning your stuff feels so good. It's hard at first, but it's freeing. And then as I walked through like forgiveness techniques and I started to heal other parts of my life, it's hard in the beginning, but then once you get the momentum and you see the fruit of it and you see you change and not be responsive, it's actually not that bad. But I would be curious what you would say of how you responded, because that was my journey, right?
Yeah, well, it was seeing Meygan model healthy behavior that inspired me to want to change. And it makes me think about probably the worst kind of message, the least sexiest message about relationships is this. Somebody's got to go first. And if you're listening to this, it's probably you. And guess what? That sucks, because I think stepping into the marriage space, there's a lot of tools for couples that are never used, because rarely do both people want to help the relationship out at the same time. One person kind of wakes up from the dead and says, holy crap, like we've got to change course. We have to worry this. And they're trying to wake their dead partner. And then what happens is, and this is what we hear, is years go by of, well, if he's not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And the message of, if you want to make a better marriage, it starts by making a better you, is a message of empowerment, that you have agency to work on yourself, to better yourself, which, by the way, increases your own sense of happiness, peace, joy. If you start working on resentment and your partner isn't, you're the one experiencing all the benefits of it.
I wasn't triggered anymore because I had worked through all my triggers. And so he was sitting there living there in all his triggers. And I'm like, sucks to be him. I mean, he's responsible for his own triggers. I didn't say that.
No, it's totally true.
But I thought that. And I was like, wow, that was me a year ago. Oh my gosh, like this is so much better on this side. And that's why people, we have a pretty large social media following, and people always ask, gosh, does it hurt your feelings? Because, people are just mean or jerky or whatever. And I'm like, no, because I know my worth. I know that that's not me. That's them hurting. And then they're just taking out on someone that they think they know, but they don't even know me. You learn quickly. And then even with boundaries, I was able to create healthy boundaries, kind of like how he brought up, like I wasn't going to allow him to yell anymore. And I just didn't yell anymore. And I'm not a yeller of a mom, and I'm not a yeller of a wife, because I was like, I am that person now, and I'm not going to be that person in the future. So then it feels really good to show up healthy. And I'm not perfect by no means, but when I would make a mistake,
Kind of.
No, well, no, I'm not. But when I would make a mistake, I was so quick to apologize versus holding it in and anger and resentment. And I'm not going to apologize.
And I'm no longer an angry person either.
Thank God.
The person that walked into marriage and I'm like, who is this person? I've never been angry at anybody.
Yeah.
And here I am angry all the time. That person's gone.
So is there a point that like it's too far gone though? Or like, can anyone get here? Because I think that's like the part I'm still sitting in. Like I get like having a time frame of like, okay, I'll give it my all for this time. But if someone's just not meeting you at all and they're not giving any effort.
Toleration.
Yeah.
Like how long are you going to tolerate being emotionally abandoned in the relationship?
4A. That's one of the A's. So,
okay, well,
so to make it simple, this is what we go through as life and marriage coaches. The 4 A's are this: abandonment, affairs, abuse, and addiction. Now, can we recover from those things? Absolutely, but you have to have two willing people to do that. So if there's an affair, are affairs recoverable? They are actually. In fact, 62% of married couples choose to recover more than divorce. So you'd think like most people would just choose divorce, but most actually choose to recover. So we've seen it. It's beautiful. It's hard. But is it for everybody? No. And there's a few factors into that. So that would be one. Addiction. You don't want to be married to an addict. You shouldn't be dating an addict. An addict needs to go get help for themselves. Can they? Absolutely. And we are huge advocates for that. And you can support them and love them, but they need to get help for themselves. Okay. Let's talk about abandonment. So abandonment is what Casey was leaning towards, where it's at some point, which it sounds like your friend's going through, where someone has to finally step up and live out their vows that they promised. They have to show up. Abandonment is actually, and neglect is a form of child abuse. It should be in marriage.
There's no scars.
There's no scars.
So it's harder to kind of identify. But abandonment is this idea of just somebody just like quits, but stays in the relationship.
Yeah.
You guys have talked about that before. I've heard you guys talk about that. It's really, really hard. It's very confusing for the person too.
It's very lonely.
So is there a point at which, I've worked with several husbands that their wives have complained to them for years to engage, and now they are walking out the door with the kids not to return. And he's like, Casey, what can I do to save my marriage? I'm like, I don't think there's anything you can do. It's done.
Yeah. And
that's hard news.
If you're in a marriage and you're doing all the work, you're teaching your spouse that you'll tolerate them being emotionally lazy. And so that's why there's a timeline there. So at some point they have to step up. And then the last one, of course, is abuse, where we have a zero tolerance for any kind of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. That has to stop, right? So yes, if there's a 4A, whether it's all of them, one of them, that is when often we would say those are definitely grounds for separation or divorce. But of course, meet with someone before you make that decision. Meet with a therapist. We have resources. Meet with a coach, because that's obviously a huge decision to make.
Well, I mean, this has been such a great conversation, so insightful. But I think my biggest takeaways with all of this is, a lot of times we think marriage is the end. It's once we find that partner, it'll all be smooth sailing. And I think this has really shown that that is not the case. In using dating and the time building up to getting married, that's the time to build these skills. So every time there is a conflict or something that doesn't go 100% the way you want it to, I think reframing to be like, this is just helping us for the long haul is such a better way. And I think the other big thing I'm taking away with this too is it's so easy to just say like, I'm going to go. And I think there are times that it does make sense. Like you pointed out, the 4As, like there is a time that you can't just keep living in something, especially if someone isn't willing to take steps. But I do think marriage, I mean, you are taking a vow. And I think what you said, Meygan, of just, I would rather know that I gave it my all and put my ego aside and look at this person as a human. It feels like when conflict comes in marriage, it's almost like in early dating, this me versus you. And we even say like in our book and like in this podcast, like if we can go in with a partner mentality, that's just a much better way to connect. And we need to bring that into marriage. Like we're signing up to be partners. So it's kind of funny that that falls to the wayside. But I think in the heat of conflict, it can so easily fall away.
I'm just hearing the word trust, trust, trust. I keep hearing that word, and I'm not surprised that it's more important than ever in a relationship, in a marriage, in building a relationship. And yes, one part is trusting your partner, trusting your relationship. But what I'm hearing you say, Meygan, is trusting yourself is a lot of this building trust.
Yes.
The way you were talking about how you work through kind of working on yourself in a really beautiful way, I kept picturing you freeing yourself from the relationship and then finding your way back. So it wasn't so much like fighting for the relationship and the outcome of your marriage to work out, but it's finding a direction for yourself that's clear, that's strong. And if you happen to be aligned, the two of you, then you come back together. So I think it's like the trust of yourself, knowing that you are bettering yourself, you are being more clear about what you tolerate and won't tolerate, that you won't be making the wrong decisions in your relationship because you are so trusting of yourself and you feel safe with yourself. So thank you for that, because I think that applies to every part of dating, not just marriages, but for anybody who's even single right now, like, where am I going with this? And there's so many unknowns. Am I making the right decision? Building that trust in yourself is empowering yourself with these skills and tools that are available to us.
And I just want to say something because it's a real salient point, is that the etymology of confidence The root word is fidere, Latin fidere, which is trust. So confidence is actually our ability to trust ourselves. But if you don't do the work of working on yourself and working through triggers, becoming more aware of who am I? How do I show up for life? How can you trust yourself if you don't know yourself? And so when I hear all these conferences about confidence, right? Because that's a big word right now. It's actually as simple as that. Just getting to know oneself is the pathway to building confidence. And confidence is the new sexy.
It is.
That's beautiful. That's a great note to end on. When we build confidence in ourselves, we will have more agency over the choices we make in our lives and to lead the life that we want, which could lead to the most beautiful relationship and or marriage. Thank you two so much for being on Dateable. It's so nice to hear this side of the story and hear that you're helping out all these couples out there, helping us navigate this very much uncharted territory right now. For anybody who wants to hear more about you and the resources that you provide, where can they go?
Just head to marriage365.com and you'll see everything we've got.
Great. And we'll link it in our show notes as well.
Thanks, ladies, for having us. This was fun.
Yay. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap up this episode. Stay dateable.